The Black Death, also known as the Great Plague, periodically swept over Europe between the 14th and the 17th centuries. It is estimated that between 30 to 60% of Europe's population was wiped out. Not knowing the truth about the causes of the disease, people turned to superstition. Towns rang their church bells to chase the plague away. Priests anointed and prayed for the sick, and the church sold letters of indulgences as remittance for sins committed. Of course, all in vain. And as a measure of last resort, Jews, lepers, and other minorities were persecuted and executed. Yesterday, Robert Bowers, a Christian, burst into a synagogue in Pittsburgh, and he mowed down people worshipping there. Many Christians think God favors a very specific religion. According to John's Gospel, Jesus said, "The truth will make you free." How many lives could have been saved, how much misery prevented, had people known the truth about the plague? Basic measures of hygiene would have stopped its spread had they known it was caused by bacteria. The Protestant Reformation could be viewed as a search for truth. And one of the first things the Reformers did was to abolish the sale of indulgences as pure superstition. However, we would make a grave mistake to argue that the Reformation was the final truth. It was just a point on a journey. Unfortunately, Christianity never had a comfortable relationship with science. As we all know, in 1632, Galileo Galilei was put under house arrest. Found guilty of heresy, he was forced to recant his insights that the earth revolved around the sun. The Bible, of course, clearly says that the earth is flat and that it stands on its four pillars and that the sun runs its circle from the east to the west. The Catholics only apologized in 1992. A little bit late, won't you think? In 1929, in our own country, Professor Johannes du Plessis of the University of Stellenbosch was also found guilty of heresy and fired from his job. He had argued that the biblical accounts of creation should not be read literally because, he said in 1929, God created us through evolution. A secular court reversed the decision. However, the church put him on permanent administrative leave, and he was never allowed to teach students again. Sounds like a bargain to me, you know. You get your salary, you don't have to teach. So you can see that scientific discoveries and advances in the biblical sciences bring us to new truths which set us free, which liberate us. God reveals God's self in scientific progress as well. And through the biblical sciences, we understand the Bible better. Nowadays, we understand that the Bible is not a word-for-word dictate or facts from God. It was written by human beings struggling with God. And so we are invited to continue with the search for truth. The same principle holds true for homosexuality. According to many fundamentalist interpretations of the Bible, it is an abomination, and such people should be stoned to death. This does not mean it is necessarily true. A few years ago, I did a marriage. The bride was a widow and many years older than the groom. And at the beginning of this year, they came to see me. The wife complained that she found messages on her husband's cell phone which indicated that he was having an affair with another man. And I asked them, "What do you expect from me?" Well, the man said, "We heard Angus Bacon declaring that homosexuality can be cured by prayer. Would you please pray for me so that I can be cured?" I politely informed him that he came to the wrong person. I was not willing to do such a prayer. Psychologists, I told them, are unanimous that one's sexual orientation cannot be changed by prayer or by electroconvulsive shock therapy for that matter, or by hell and brimstone Christian programs like HTO, Homosexuality to Overcome. So my advice to them was that they should either get divorced or renegotiate the terms of their relationship. And they decided to do it. They decided to stay together. And I respect that decision because it was taken on the basis of honesty by both parties. And for me, this event again proves that we cannot use the Bible to proof text homosexuality or the inferior position of women or the ideology of apartheid. But I do accept that the Bible is the foundational document of our faith, and therefore we need to enter into conversation with the Bible, especially from the perspective of poetry and psychology and the sciences. We can learn much about God from modern knowledge. And the traditional view of God should also be open to discussion. Our tradition supplies us with a picture of God that is distant and pulling the strings of our lives like a heavenly puppet master. If a house burns down or a child dies, there is some or other divine purpose. God has God's favorites, and it would be those who worship God correctly. Is this really true? Let's talk about the Thai cave rescue. It has not often been reported in the press, but religion was involved from the beginning to the end. The soccer players, aged 11 to 16, were let into the caves by their instructor, Ekapol Shantawong, who had been a Buddhist monk before. And prayer alerts were sent out by Thailand's Buddhists, as well as various Christian communities. And when they were finally rescued on websites, it was claimed that it was due to Catholic saints, to guardian angels, or Buddhist deities. The word miracle was liberally bandied about. But let's look at the facts. I don't think there is any evidence that God planned this event to make a point. Chance, serendipity played its part. The coach did not see the warning sign that it was dangerous to enter the caves at that time of the year. And luckily, they found a cave which was above water level, which helped them to survive. Life just happened. It also goes against common sense that God would allow a volunteer diver, Saman Kunan, just 37 years of age, to die during the rescue effort just to prove a point. And furthermore, the water pumped out from the caves streamed onto various surrounding fields, destroying them. The poor farmers who own the land face serious economic hardship. The outcome wasn't positive for everyone. And I do not think we can describe it as a miracle in the sense of an event defying natural laws. The total number of people involved in the rescue from many different countries came to more than 10,000. And the factors involved in this operation were the best of management science, scientific and medical knowledge, the teamwork of highly trained people, meticulous planning, and the brainstorming of creative ideas. The human qualities of compassion, bravery, ingenuity, and volunteerism made the day. Many people prayed for a good outcome, but I don't think we should regard prayers as begging God successfully to intervene. The function of the prayers was rather to raise sensitivity to a crisis, to prod human beings into action. It was also praying to ourselves. When we do good, it can be seen as God acting through us, even through people who follow different religions. The Thai chief of the rescue mission, Naronsak Osotanakorn, said after the successful operation, "Nobody thought we could do it. It was a world first. It was mission possible for Team Thailand. The heroes this time are people all over the world. This mission was successful because we had power, the power of love. Everybody sent it to the 13. And for me, this event tells us that God is close to us, not far away, that God does not reward us for believing in God, but that God believes in us, trusts us, and works through us. True religion is where love is practiced. I would like to conclude with the problem of climate change. There was another rally of the potato farmer yesterday, during which he said that God uses droughts and natural disasters to bring us back to God and God's commandments. And let's be honest, for him the commandments of God imply that women should be obedient to their husbands and that homosexuality should be negated. Now, of course, there are passages in the Bible that claim God operates in this way. King Ahab, according to 1 Kings 17, landed a drought on Israel because of idolatry. And again, we cannot accept this uncritically, because in biblical times it was thought that there was a huge reservoir of water above the sky, and according to people's behavior, God would open and close the sluice gates. However, listen what Jesus said according to Matthew 5, verse 45. God makes the sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. Do you hear that? God does not use natural disasters to prod us into following a certain way. God does not intervene against the laws of nature which God created. Again, we rather have to ask in what way, as human beings, we are responsible for climate change and how we can make a positive contribution by limiting our carbon footprint. I think Buchan's theology is simplistic and dangerous and undermines human responsibility. In conclusion, the Reformation did not supply us with final truths. Through the biblical sciences, we now understand that the Bible reflects theologies of exclusion, of the domination of the earth, of the subjugation of women. But it also has theologies of inclusivity, of equality, of amazing creativity and responsibility. The Bible is therefore more responsibly used as a source of dialogue and conversation, not as a fax from God. God is also not far away. God is in us, and we in God. God believes in us and moves us to new futures. We should not despise the intellect and science, but realize that God reveals God's self also in scientific discoveries. Amen. Susie Kassem wrote a poem which she called Featherweight. It is about seeking the truth and new discoveries. I would like Susan Long to read it for us. Thank you.
One evening, I sat by the ocean and questioned the moon about my destiny. I revealed to it that I was beginning to feel smaller compared to others, because the more secrets of the universe I would unlock, the smaller in size I became. I didn't understand why I wasn't feeling larger instead of smaller. I thought that seeking truth was what was required of us all, to show us the way, not to make us feel lost, up against the odds in a devilish game partitioned by an invisible wall. Then the next morning, a bird appeared at my window, just as the sun began spreading its yoke over the horizon. It remained perched for a long time, gazing at me intently to make sure I knew I wasn't dreaming. Then its words gently echoed throughout my mind, telling me, "The world you are in is the true hell. The journey to truth itself is what quickens the heart to become lighter. The lighter the heart, the purer it is. The purer the heart, the closer to light it becomes. And the heavier the heart, the more chained to this hell it will remain." And just like that, it flew off towards the sun, leaving behind a tiny feather. So I picked it up and fastened it to a toothpick to dip into ink and write my name.